Hello friends, welcome to Universe of Naruto X. If you love Naruto what if stories and anime explanations, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin today's story. And now let's start the fanfic. Look at the size of that thing. Nar said as their ship made its approach. Revan snorted. Size in this case doesn't matter, dear. She shook her head. Why is it every megalomaniac has to compensate with a giant ship and huge armies? Nar leaned in and whispered in her ear. What did you compensate with him? Revan turned and slapped him on the chest. That was Malik who wanted the army. I was considering other matters. Nar knew better than to make a further comment. He ignored the banter between the pilot and Khan and Obi-Wan. Bad feeling. Shesh Ben, you worry too much. He thought we've been cleared to land. The pilot said, great. Into the lion's den and me without my exploding tags. Naruto thought he'd been unable to make any tags since he hadn't been able to find tags to make them with. I'll ask Rev if she knows where I can get paper to make tags from. He turned to see his wife looking at the Trade Federation control ship. Something wrong? He asked. Not sure. I don't know enough of the situation, but something feels ominous, she said, hugging her arms to her torso. There is more going on than a bunch of merchants holding a blockade of a peaceful world out here near the outer rim. Naruto looked at the fleet of ships. All these ships and each loaded with what did you call them again? Oh yeah, battle droids. Kian nodded from his place as he and Obi-Wan pulled up their hoods. Revan sighed and pulled hers up as well. Sweetie, put your robes on. She said in a sickeningly sweet voice. No thank. I'll pass. Nar said looking out at all the droid ships. Nar, you will put on the robes I got for you and pull the hood up. Play the role you've been given or Kami is my witness. I will make sure Dex never makes you ramen again. Naruto's head turned so fast that Obi-Wan and Kian were surprised his head didn't pop off with the velocity. You can't do that, the blonde said, and the Jedi heard his panic and felt it in the Force. I most certainly can, she said, tossing a set of brown Jedi robes at her husband. And don't you dare wrinkle your nose at wearing them. Obi-Wan had seen Nar making faces behind his wife's back and jumped when she, without turning around, scolded him. Nar grumbled as he slipped the robes on. It was Keegan who spoke next. You wear them well, Nar grumbled. I hate robes. They're almost as bad as formal kimonos. Revan laughed, remembering the time she, Ino, and Naruto went undercover in a brothel and Naruto in his sexy jutsu form. They had discovered it wasn't a henge. It was an actual transformation. Pleasant memory, love, Nar asked with a grin. Blushing, Revan scowled at him, catching her thoughts. You enjoyed that time as well as I recall, she said and looked him up and down. You look like a proper Jedi, she said with a hint of something more in her voice. Nar smirked. Of course I do. I learned from the best. Thanks, Revan said. I was talking about Master Yoda, Nar said and stepped out of the way from a backhand slap, but he forgot about one thing, and a force slap across the back of the head had him scowling. The small cruiser docks in the enormous bay of the Trade Federation battleship. Four cloaked figures leave the ship and are met by a silver protocol droid. Greetings, I am TC-14. This way, please, the feminine-sounding droid said and led the quartet from the docking bay, ignoring the activity going on around them. They are led down several corridors and into a formal conference room by TC-14. I hope you honored sirs are comfortable here. My master will be with you shortly. The droid bows before the four cloaked figures, then backs out of the room. The door hissing shut behind it. The four lower their hoods and look out a large window at the lush green planet of Nebo. I have a bad feeling about this, Obi-Wan says. I don't sense anything, Khan says looking at his Padawan. Nor I, Revan says, leaning against the wall while looking at the planet of Nebo. Hasn't changed much from orbit. She must. You're just being overly sensitive again, Ben. Nar said sitting at the conference table and put his feet up on it. Obi-Wan sigh and looks at his master. I don't think it's about this mission, master. It's something elsewhere elusive. Kian put his hands on his Padawan's shoulders. Don't center on your anxiety, Obi-Wan. Keep your concentration here and now where it belongs. Revan smirked. I think Benny's just eager to kick butt is all. Lady Revan, could you not take up your husband's bad habit of calling me by that name or making up new versions of it, please? Obi-Wan asked the other master, who shook her head and smirked. He then looked at his master. Master Yoda says, I should be mindful of the future. Yes, but not at the expense of the moment. Nar said, having gotten the same lecture earlier from the diminutive master during his lessons with him. He Gon agreed. Be mindful of the living force, my young Padawan. Yes, master. Then deciding to change the subject, he asked, how do you think the trade viceroy will deal with the demands we carry from the chancellor? Revan snorted, getting the attention of the others. If the Trade Federation is like I think it is, made up of merchants and the like, then they are a bunch of cowards. He-Gon agreed. I believe the negotiations will be short. Mute Gunray looks at his protocol droid in shock. What did you say? TC-14 repeated. I believe that the 4 ambassadors from the Supreme Chancellor are Jedi. Gunray's companion panicked. Blind me. They were sent to force a settlement. We're done for. No, we're not. Take them some refreshments. Stall them. Mute ordered his droid. They waited till the TC-14 walked away. I want a detachment sent to the corridor where the Jedi are. Pump the room full of gas, then send the droids in to finish them off. TC-14 brought them cups while they were talking. Nar out of habit used his enhanced senses to try and smell a poison while he watched the Jedi use the Force. Revan sipped hers while looking at Nebo. Something wrong? Nar asked his wife, rising to stand next to her. No, not really. It's just the last time I was here was to help Bastila bury her mother in their family's crypt. Nar put an arm around his wife and hugged her to him. The pair heard something and the Jedi at the table tensed. Gas. Obi-Wan stated as he and Ki began using the Force to create a breath bubble around themselves. Revan was doing the same while Naruto pulled up his ninja mask that he designed back when he was younger to keep poisons out of his lungs. The room filled quickly. Revan reached out with the Force. Those bastards. There's a small squad of battle droids outside the door. I guess Khan was right. These negotiations didn't last long. Naruto shot back through the bond while Revan and the Jedi pulled their lightsabers. Naruto sighed and summoned his from the seal as well. And you say I always go looking for trouble. Naruto sent to his wife, who rolled her eyes as they continued to use the Force to keep the poison out of their lungs. A hologram of Mute surrounded by battle droids appears in the conference room hallway. They must be dead by now. Blast whatever is left of them. The hologram fades off as the battle droid opens the door. A deadly green cloud billows from the room. The gathered battle droids their weapons as a figure stumbles out of the smoke. It is TC-14 carrying the empty tray. Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. The protocol droid passes the armed droids just as 5 laser swords spring to life in the deadly fog. A green and blue one fly out of the poison-filled conference room, cutting down several of the battle droids before they can even open fire. Alarm klaxons sound on the bridge of the Trade Federation ship. What the devil? Oh, this is bad. His companion whines. We've lost the droids we sent to deal with the Jedi. What in blazes is going on down there? Mute fumes. Have you ever encountered a Jedi Knight before, sir? His companion asks. Well, not exactly, but I don't. A panicked look fills the alien's face. Seal off the bridge. He barks the order. That won't be enough, sir. His fellow Nemoyan says, both looking on as the doors to the bridge slam shut. I want destroyer droids up here at once. Mute orders while his companion is whining. We will not survive this. Kian cuts down a couple of battle droids, creating a shower of sparks and metal parts. Obi-Wan raises his hand and sends several battle droids crashing into the wall hard with a force push. They both turn to see Naruto and Revan finishing the rest off. Both Jedi impressed as the pair looked like they were dancing around one another, their movements in perfect sync with the other. Keegan nods at them and makes his way towards the bridge door and slams his lightsaber into it to begin cutting his way in. The bridge crew is looking very nervous as sparks start flying around the bridge door. One of them brings up the image from a camera in the corridor showing the 4 Jedi on the view screen. Close the blast doors. Mute yells out frantically. A huge, very thick blast door slams shut, followed by a second door, then a third. There is a loud hissing sound as the doors seal shut on the screen. Ki stabs the door again with his lightsaber and is joined by Nar. The screen goes black as a red spot appears in the center of the blast door. They're still coming through. Mute's companion moans as they watch the door as chunks of molten metal begin to drop away. Impossible. Mute yells out. This is impossible. Where are those destroyer droids? His companion yells to one of the techs. Out in the corridor with Revan and Obi-Wan standing guard. Nar and Keegan are making progress with the door when they hear it. 10 ugly Wii-like droids roll down the hallway at full speed. Just before they get to the bridge area, they stop and transform into their battle configuration. He can't sense their presence, but hears Obi-Wan's shout of warning causes him to stop and turn from his task with Nar. Destroyer droids. Offhand, I'd say this mission is way past the negotiation stage. Revan says, taking up a stance as the destroyer droids rush the entry area from the 3 connecting hallways, their laser guns blasting. They stop firing and stand in a semicircle as the smoke clears. The 4 Jedi are nowhere to be seen. Switch to bio. There they are. The lead droid orders and they see the 4 Jedi materialize at the far end of the hallway and dash through the doorway that slams shut. The droids open fire and the Jedi deflecting with their lightsabers send several blasts back at the droids. They have shield generators, Obi-Wan said in surprise, which Revan snorts at as she uses her two blades to smack aside incoming laser bolts. It's a standoff. Let's go, Qui-Gon says, and the four dash down another adjacent corridor, avoiding blaster fire before Ki stops, deflect a blaster bolt into a ventilation cover, and dives in while Revan stands guard before she enters last. 20 minutes later, the four emerge from a very large ventilation shaft in the giant hangar bay. They pause, seeing the burned-out remains of the cruiser they'd come on. They watch from a catwalk as thousands of battle droids are being loaded onto numerous landing craft. Battle droids, thousands of them. Khan says, it's an invasion army. Naruto hisses. Would you say this is an odd play for the Trade Federation? Revan asks, we've got to warn the Nebo and get in contact with Chancellor Valor Aurum. Ki says, let's split up. Each of us stow aboard a separate ship and meet down on the planet. The others agree. Nar has to hold in his laugh when he hears Obi-Wan's comment. You were right about one thing, Master. The negotiations were short. 6 landing craft fly towards the surface of the planet of Nebo. On board one, a very bored Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze wasted no time in messing around. Soon the ship was filled with sparks and all the battle droids' heads popped off. I'm so not paying for this, he muttered, wondering how Revan was faring. You broke them, came the amused voice of his wife. Yeah, not my fault. Nothing is marked properly. Nar ignored his wife's amusement. Yes, well, you did good. One less group to deal with on the surface. I'll do the same. Good work, love. Nar sighed as he leaned against the wall. He picked up a droid head. You know, Bob, for something that's designed for war, you all sure break easy. He tossed the droid head over his shoulder and decided to look around now that he messed up. He smiled, seeing vehicles. Wonder if I can drive this thing. He pondered. Nah, Rev would skin me. Last time I flew her speeder ended up part of the landscape. Naruto thought of the time back outside of Konoha when Revan taught him to pilot her speeder. With that in mind, Naruto sat and started messing around with one of the now broken droids. I wonder if this feeling is the same Rev gets when she's working on one of her projects. This is actually fun, he thought as he began to rebuild a droid, his hands unconsciously rewiring and removing parts while adding others, his eyes taking on a glazed look. Nibu was beautiful. Nar stood upon a high branch and watched as the other drop ships unloaded their armies. Only 3 others didn't, and Naruto, with his weak sense of the Force, could feel the 3 others. Well, Rev, I know of through our bond, Master Yoda's been helping me sharpen my Force senses. He could also feel them with his chakra-enhanced senses. He gone calm, not bothered by what's going on. Revs. Well, my loving wife is giddy. Sigh almost as much as the time we went to Kumo and got Hinata's daughter back. And Ben, oh dear. Nar felt his friend's annoyance in reaching out, he could feel the Padawan's distress. Leaping from the branch, he took to the next one as he moved towards his friend, who in turn was making his way towards his master. Ben picked up some trouble. Have to tease him later. Nar got there the same time Obi-Wan hit the ground as Keegan's green-bladed lightsaber deflected the blasters back at the battle droids on their hovering machines, destroying them. It was then that he noticed a creature standing up behind the Jedi Master. Look out! He yelled as he formed a Rinnegan and the creature with floppy ears and a snout turned wide yellow eyes seeing Nar as he appeared right in front of him thanks to the Hiroshin and Nar not wanting the elder Jedi to be harmed slammed the blue spinning ball into the creature's chest and sent it flying where it skipped across the water and landed on the opposite bank. Nar smiled and looked at Obi-Wan in a stunned Ki-1. You okay? He asked his friend who nodded and held up his shorted out lightsaber. I sort of forgot to waterproof it. You attacked a local, He-Gon said in surprise. I did. It was rising up behind you while you were defending Ben. Couldn't let you get knifed in the back. A snort drew their attention to Revan, who was sitting on a branch. That love is a Gungan. Trust me, they are no threat unless your fish are very stupid. Revan back, flipped off the branch, and landed next to Naruto. She used the Force and Obi-Wan's lightsaber was in her hand. Ben, don't feel too bad. I used to go through lightsabers like Nar here goes through ramen. Luckily, this is easy to fix here and now. When we get a free moment, have Nar put a few seals on it. She made some adjustments after separating the hilt and the top. She put it back together and with a snap, the blue blade sprang to life. She deactivated it and handed it back to the embarrassed Padawan. They heard a commotion and saw the Gungan coming towards them. Nar had a kunai in his hand before the Jedi could blink. Easy tiger. Revan said, putting a hand on his. You hit him with a low-level Rinnegan. Didn't you? Nar nodded. Just enough to send him off. Nothing that would cause damage. Mesawana. The creature began, but Revan waved a hand and the Gungan's eyes became vacant. You will go home and forget this happened. You will be careful and warn your people of the battle droids. The Gungan nodded. Its ears flopped about as it rushed off. Couldn't we have used him to find our way? Obi-Wan asked after the Gungan entered the brush. More hassle than it's worth, Revan said. Gungans don't trust Outlanders, and I doubt that's changed in 4,000 years, especially with how aristocratic the Naboo are. She looked at her husband. Since we've taken out 4 of the ships and their cargo, we can salvage a speeder from one of them and use that to get to the Nargrind on it. He pulled out a comm link and Revan raised an eyebrow. Now I'm not as skilled as my beautiful and talented wife, but I do stumble through on some ideas once in a while. Bob, bring the car around, he said into the device, and the 3 Jedi turned, seeing one of the droid tanks come crashing through the underbrush. Revan turned towards him and raised an eyebrow. What? You taught me the basics. Nar said defensively. Shaking her head, she patted his cheek and climbed up. Droid. Bob. Nar interrupted. Bob. Revan continued. Leave. Roger. Roger. The battle droid climbed out and stepped towards a tree. Power down, Bob. Nar ordered. Roger. Roger. The Jedi climbed aboard and saw Revan had brought up a planetary map. Well, need to cut through here to beat the army to the, no, we're too late. Look here, Naruto said and pointed. And Revan brought it up. They already have control of the city. Damn it. To Odo. Naruto smiled. We can use the tank to slip in with the rest of the army and rescue the queen. Revan shot her husband a look. You and rescuing the princess. Nar shrugged. Carry over from my days as a genin with dreams of adventure and excitement. A Jedi craves not those things. Obi-Wan said. Nar looked at his friend and put an arm around his shoulders. Ben, you have much to learn, my young friend. Some rules are meant to broken. Revan snorted from the pilot's seat as Khan joined her. You don't break rules, dear, she said, bringing the systems online. Thank you. You obliterated them and piss on the smoldering embers. Nar pouted as the hover tank shot off, leaving a lone battle droid deactivated in the clearing. The waterfalls of the sparkle in the noonday sun. The place looks like paradise with billowing clouds that frame the body of water, making it a very romantic setting. Revan stops the tank and they look at the city from across the river. Hasn't really changed in appearance in 4,000 years. She said. The Jedi begin to climb out of the tank when a battle droid steps out of the nearby foliage. Drop your weapons. It states. The Jedi turn as Nar performs a flip and lands between the Jedi and the droid. I said, drop your weapons. The droid orders again. Nar sighs as he slams a ringon into the droid. Its chest crumples and sends it flying into the river where the current carries it over the waterfall to the rocks below. Nar starts walking. The Jedi follow. Obi-Wan looks from where the droid was to where it went. Whoa, he muttered, making the mental note not to get hit by that attack anytime in the future. The 3 Jedi and lone ninja scurry around. They slip from cover to avoid the patrols. They reach the plaza and see the queen, her handmaid Aidens, advisors, and guards being escorted out of the palace by 10 battle droids. Using the Force, the Jedi reach a higher walkway, and Nar using chakra sticks to the wall in the shadows. They watch as the plaza filled with tanks and battle droids move off, unaware of what was about to happen. Obi-Wan and Khan jump from the balcony they were on. They attack the closest battle droids in an attack to rescue the queen. 4 battle droids are instantly cut down. More droids move forward, but Revan leaps down, her twin blades slicing them up. There only remains one, the sergeant droid. It starts to run to summon more help, but Nar appears out of thin air and with a kick sends it crashing into the wall where it explodes into several pieces. They really don't make them very solid, he said, looking at his wife who sighed and put her lightsabers away. Quantity over quality, it seems, she said. Agree with him as she moved towards him to make sure he was fine. He moves the queen and her surprised group to the safety of a nearby alley. Your Highness, we are ambassadors for the Supreme Chancellor. He says in introduction. An elderly statesman named Bibble spoke up. Well, your negotiations seem to have failed. He shook his head. The negotiations never took place. Your Highness, we must make contact with the Republic. Captain Panaka of the Queen's Guard steps forward. Impossible. They knocked out all of our communications. Do you have transports? Revan asked from where she was standing with Naruto. In the main hangar, Panaka said and gestured. It's this way. The hallway outside the main hangar they used to spy using a side door. He gone is peering over Panaka's shoulder. The rest of the group is behind them. They see several Nebo spacecraft guarded by around 50 battle droids. In the distance, alarms could be heard. There are too many of them, Panaka says with a frown. That won't be a problem, Kagan says, sharing a look with Naruto and Revan before looking at the queen. Under the circumstances, Your Highness, I suggest you come to Coruscant with us. The Queen looked at him, her dark gaze never leaving his. Thank you, Ambassador, but my place is here with my people. They will kill you if you stay, Revan interjected. They wouldn't dare, Bibble says in surprise. Nar snorted. How can you be so naive at your age, old man? They need her to sign a treaty to make this invasion of theirs legal in the courts. They can't afford to kill her. Nar shook his head. There are worse things to do to someone other than kill them. Torture for one, Khan interjected before the blonde could unnerve the Nebo even more. The situation here is not what it seems. There is something else behind all this, Your Highness. There is no logic in the Trade Federation's move here. My feelings tell me they will destroy you. Bibble, unnerved with the talk of torture, and the Queen's death, looked at her, fear on his face. Please, Your Highness, reconsider. Our only hope is for the Senate to side with us. Senator Palpatine will need your help in getting it. Panaka shook his head. Getting past their blockage is impossible. This course of action will expose you to a greater risk. Nar snorted. Any escape has the potential to be dangerous. It's what you do with your chance that matters. The captain of the guard shot the blonde a look, but Nar was looking back at the hangar. I will stay here and do what I can. They will have to retain the Council of Governors in order to maintain control, but Your Highness must leave. Bibble said. The Queen turns toward her two handmaidens. Either choice presents a great risk to all of us. The one on the right spoke up. We are brave, Your Highness. Ki spoke up. If you are to leave, Your Highness, it must be now. Amidala nods. Then I will plead our case before the Senate. She turned towards Bibble. Be careful, Governor. She didn't see the look Revan was giving her and her handmaid Aidens. The door opens to the main hangar. Naruto and Revan lead the way with Ki and Obi-Wan escorting the Queen, Captain Panaka, 2 guards, and 3 handmaid Aidens. They break off with the Queen and head for the sleek chrome spacecraft. Behind them at the door is Bibble and the remaining handmaid Aidens and guard. The handmaid Aidens are distressed. Panaka leans towards Kagan. We need to free those pilots. He points towards where 20 guards, ground crew, and pilots are held in a corner by 6 battle droids. I'll take care of it, Obi-Wan says. Naruto follows him towards the group of captured pilots. Revan and Ki lead the Queen and the others approach the guards at the ramp of the Nebo craft. Where are you going? The droid demands. I am for the Supreme Chancellor and I'm taking these people to Coruscant. The droids begin to bring up their weapons. You're under arrest. Before the weapon is raised or fired, they are cut down as Revan's blades snap to life. As this is happening, Nar and Obi-Wan are destroying droids around the pilots. More droids run to the aid, but Nar goes on the offensive. Obi-Wan hears what sounds like thousands of birds chirping and turns to see Nar rush the oncoming droids and strikes out. His hand looks like it's covered in lightning. He watches as the droids explode. Revan and Khan fight off droids as everyone is rushed aboard the spacecraft. A pilot, some guards, and ground crew rush to the ship and board. The others head for Bibble. After everyone is aboard, Naruto and Obi-Wan rush the ramp as it seals behind them. More alarms are sounding and droids rush into the hangar as the ship lifts off. They open fire, but the deflector shields absorb it and it rushes out of the hangar. The sleek spacecraft speeds away from the planet of Nebo and heads straight into the Trade Federation blockade. The pilot navigates towards the massive battleship. Behind him, Kigan and Panaka are watching. Here, the man mutter, communications still jammed. Naruto smiles as Obi-Wan makes sure the Queen is secure. He peeks into a hold and sees a bunch of little droids that in his opinion look like garbage cans. They all turn towards him. Hey fellas, he gives them a grin, but the ship shakes hard and he watches as they line up and vanish up a tube. Where are they going in such a rush? He muttered. Utility droids. They're going to effect repairs. Revan said from next to him in flight. He asked. That's what they're designed for, his wife said with a shrug. We're losing droids fast. He gone said looking at the sensor. Hey, he did it. The power's back online. He bypassed the main power drive. Deflector shields up and at maximum. The pilot said as the screens that were red and alarms that were screaming changed, alarms shut off and the screens became green. On an exterior camera screen, it shows a lone blue astromemic droid finishing his repairs, goes back into the ship. The Naboo spacecraft races away from the Trade Federation battleship. The pilot looks at a screen. There's not enough power to get us to Coruscant. The hyperdrive is leaking. He gone sighed. We'll have to land somewhere to refuel and repair the ship, he said, pulling up a star chart on a monitor. Master, Obi-Wan says getting his attention. Tatooine, it's small, out of the way, poor. The Trade Federation has no presence there. How can you be sure of that? Panaka asks from across the because it's controlled by the Hutts. Ki states. The Hutts. Panaka says in concern, it is risky, but there isn't an alternative. Obi-Wan says, defending his choice. You can't take Her Royal Highness there. The Hutts are gangsters if they discovered her. It would be no different than if we landed on a system controlled by the Trade Federation. Except the Hutts aren't looking for her, which gives us an advantage. Panaka takes a deep breath and sighs in frustration. I've got a bad feeling about this, he mutters. The pilot makes the course adjustments, and the Naboo spacecraft rockets off in a new direction. Aboard the Trade Federation battleship in a conference room. Nuke Gunray and his aides sit at a conference table. A hologram of a cloaked figure looks down at them listening to their report. We control all the cities in the north and we have 6 battalions searching for other settlements. The cloaked figure interrupts. Destroy all high-ranking officials. Viceroy slowly and quietly. Now has Queen Amidala signed the treaty? Nuke looks nervous. I am afraid she has disappeared. My lord. One Naboo cruiser got past our blockade. The cloaked figure swelled with anger. I want her found, Viceroy. I want that treaty signed. Lord Sidious, it's impossible. Oh, locate the ship. It's out of our range. The cloaked Sidious seems to smile under his hood as a second figure appears behind him. Not for a Sith. The Viceroy and his aide seem to shrink in fear. This is my apprentice, Lord Maul. He will find your lost ship. The hologram begins to fade. Yes, my lord, Mute says with a bow, and the hologram of the Sith Lords fades away fully. Mute, look at his aide. This is getting out of hand. Now there are 2 of them. We should not have made this bargain. What will happen once the Jedi become aware of these Sith Lords? Neither Nimoyan has an answer that calms them. Back aboard the Naboo spacecraft. In the Queen's quarters, the heroes assemble. Well, it is a very well put together little utility droid, Revan said as she looked over the astromech droid as they stood before the Queen in her chambers. She was itching to get to work on finishing HK-47 before they got to Tatooine. I know my luck. I'll run into Tuskens or I wonder if Zerka is still active. Nah, they were nearly finished before I left for the outer regions. She thought Kian Obi-Wan and Captain Panaka with the little droid are before the Queen. Revan and Naruto are near the door. The Knight of the Old Republic and the former Hokage of the Leaf both itching to stretch. The Queen and her 3 handmaid Aidens, Padme, and Rob listen as Panaka praises the little droid. Extremely well put together little droid. Without a doubt, it saved the ship and all our lives. Queen Amidala nods her head. It is to be commended. What is its number? The droid lets out a series of beeps and whistles as Captain Panaka leans over the droid and scrapes some dirt off the side and reads the number aloud. R2-D2, Your Highness. Amidala gives a slight bow of her head. Thank you, R2-D2. You have proven very loyal. She pauses and then Padme. The handmaiden steps forward and bows to the Queen. Nar nudges his wife who nods but holds a finger up to her lips as the Queen continues speaking. Clean this droid up the best you can. It deserves our gratitude. She looks at Panaka. Continue your report, Captain. Panaka looks nervously at the Jedi. Your Highness, we are heading for a remote planet called Tatooine. It is a system far beyond the reach of the Trade Federation. There we will hopefully be able to make the needed repairs. And from there, Panaka does not look happy. Your Highness, Tatooine is very dangerous. It's controlled by an alliance of gangsters known as the Hutts. I do not agree with the Jedi on this. He stepped forward. You must trust my judgment, Your Highness. Revan and Nar seem to be the only ones who see the Queen look at Padme, who moves next to R2-D2. The meeting breaks up with Amidala dismissing them and telling Panaka that she will take his protest under advisement. Revan was sitting before the frame of HK-47. Every so often, she would look up from her wiring and watch as Padme worked at cleaning R2-D2. Revan could tell the girl barely had a clue as to what she was doing. I mean, a rag is fine for the first layer of dirt, but no tools. Shaking her head, she could hear her husband tormenting Obi-Wan as they came down the corridor into the hold, saying that with an alternate training method would be better. Master Yoda agrees with me and even asked me to work with the younglings. The blonde said, I can't believe he will leave you of all people alone with the younglings. That alone sends a disturbance in the Force. A million voices cry out. Obi-Wan stopped at the door as his eyes landed on the red-robed figure of the handmaiden while Naruto oblivious went to his wife and kissed her on the forehead before looking at HK-47's frame. Orange, he said. No, Revan said. But that rust color is close. I'm just saying a nice bright orange. You'll sleep at Obi-Wan's if you even think about painting my droid that hideous orange. Revan said looking up from her wiring in the chest cavity. Nar made a HN sound as he saw the changes she'd made. What gives? After seeing how crappy the Trade Federation's design was, I've made modifications. Obi-Wan stepped in and looked over the handmaiden's shoulder. Hello. Both Padme and Artu jumped, not expecting him to be standing right there. Revan and Naruto smile seeing the embarrassed look on the Padawan's face. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to startle you, he said. That's all right, Padme says, picking up her dropped rag. Obi-Wan was quiet watching as she cleaned the droid. I saw some oil back there earlier. Would you like me to get it for you? Padme looked at him and smiled. Thank you. This little guy is quite a mess. Obi-Wan goes and fetches the oil can and hands it to her. Where are my manners? I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi. Padme. I attend Her Highness. You're a Jedi Knight, aren't you? Padawan apprentice. I haven't taken my Knight trials yet. Obi-Wan corrects her. So, they sent 4 Jedi to help us. Padme asks. Obi-Wan shakes his head. Master Ki and Master Revan are the fully trained Jedi. I'm a Padawan learner still. And Nar, he looks at the blonde who was helping his wife with the adjustments on their droid. He sees the 4 arms locking together to make one set of arms on each side. Well, Naruto is Revan's husband and a warrior of renown from his world and is a force sensitive. He smiled as he watched the Namakazes arguing. That one goes here, this one goes there, Revan said with a hint of frustration. Husband, I thought Jedi weren't allowed to marry. Padme looked up from her task. Obi-Wan crouched on the opposite side of R2-D2 using another rag to work on some scoring marks. Master Revan is a knight of the Old Republic. He looked over. She's from a time where the code was different. Padme's eyes scrunched up. I know the name Revan. I just can't remember from where. Obi-Wan smiled. It was not his secret to tell. So, milady, the service of the Queen. Padme gives a shrug. Her Highness does what is best for her people. Damn it, Naruto. Revan yells and the handmaid Aiden and Padawan turn to see a cloud of smoke coming from the chest of the droid. What are they doing? Padme asks. Revan's original droid was damaged too badly to fix, so she retrieved its core and is modifying a droid chassis she acquired. There were sparks coming from HK-47. Then the sound of a low hum came from the droid. Naruto's voice, while muffled as his wife throttled him, was still heard. It worked. Kian and Captain Panaka arrived hearing yelling, and they entered the hold to find a strange droid with 4 arms wide open holding tools, its blood-red optics focusing on the people in the hold. Revan was laughing and kissing her husband. Off to the side, Padme, R2-D2, and Obi-Wan watched as the droid went to work on itself. Clarification. Master should step away from the meat bag. Condescending tone. Remember the last meat bag you were doing that to, Master? What in the name of the moons of Vega is that? Panaka asked, his hand going towards his blaster. Revan pulled away. Stop. Draw that weapon and you'll act. He was as far as she got as Panaka pulled his blaster and found his arm pinned to the bulkhead by a tool. His eyes went to the droid which held 3 more. Statement. Go ahead, meatbag. Make my day, HK-47 stated before going back to work on his own chassis. Joyous day, Master. You have done outstanding work as always, the droid said with a hint of happiness in its voice. Thank you, old friend, Revan said, approaching, ignoring Panaka, who was stuck to the wall. HK-47, she said. Voice recognition confirmed. The droid froze, its optics focusing on its creator. HK-47, I wish to introduce you to my husband, Revan said as Nar stepped up and put an arm around his wife's waist. Hey, HK. Nar said, Rev's told me so much about you. Interesting statement. Master has told me nothing of you, meatbag. The assassin droid said. HK, you will answer to and respect Naruto as if he was me. Confirm command, Revan said. Silence as the droid's optics dimmed a moment, then came back. Corrective argument, Master. Are you certain you wish to give? Confirm command now. Naruto Namikaze's commands and safety will be as important as my own. Confirm. Those watching could almost hear the whine as HK-47 spoke. Confirmed. Command Master. Nar Namikaze is listed as priority master as well. Thank you. HK. I am sure you will appreciate my husband as much as I. She smiled at the droid. He is after all a powerful warrior and his skills lead to chaos and destruction. Inquiry. Chaos and destruction. Naruto smiled. My people use techniques for battle and assassination. Happy correction. Perhaps new Mitag has redeeming qualities. Panaka looked at Khan. You can't let that thing loose on the ship with the queen. It sounds homicidal. Obi-Wan placed his input. Yes. Obi-Wan shared a look with his master from where he was with Padme. And he's going to get along with Nar. The handmaiden, captain, and Padawan watched as the Jedi Master shuddered as they watched the trio on the other side of the hold talking. R2 let out a low warble. Obi-Wan nodded. I too have a bad feeling about this. Panaka, Obi-Wan, and Keegan are looking over the pilot's shoulder. A large yellow planet appears directly ahead. The pilot is looking at the scopes. That's it. Tatooine. Obi-Wan says there's a settlement, a spaceport. Looks like land near the outskirts. We don't want to attract any attention. He-Gon says Revan stepped up behind that and that would attract more. What do you mean? Panaka asks Ali. Yes, Master Revan. The pilot says get clearance to land at the spaceport. She looks at the scope. Most Espa that's new. Not really. The pilot says it's been around for about 200 years. Anchorhead has been around forever, I believe. Revan smiles at that. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. She turned back to Kagan and Obi-Wan. The displeased look on Panaka's face was ignored. By landing outside in the desert that attracts more attention. Landing at the spaceport blends us in with the rest of the traffic. But the Queen's safety. Panaka began. This will be safer. Just post people at the ramp and don't let anyone load anything. Behind them, they heard a bark of laughter as Naruto joined them. Giska, he muttered. He looked at Revan. I've got HK outfitted. He wishes to examine some of my skills once we land. Mentioned something of hunting. Revan shook her head. Not sure if that's still allowed, but he will be coming with us. Us? He-Gon asked. Of course, Master Jin, Nar, Obi-Wan, myself, and 2 droids shall venture into the town and look for parts. You will stay and protect the Queen. Khan looked rather put out that he was being told to stay behind while his Padawan was getting to go off ship, but Revan was technically senior master on the mission. One of us would need to remain behind. And while I'm a bit dated, I'm better suited to be amongst the population of Tatooine. I can't leave Nar behind as he drive you, the Queen, and everyone else up the wall. And HK would shoot first and apologize over your smoldering corpse later. And my Padawan, he asked with a smile on his lips. A learning experience for him, she said quickly, not finding an argument, he nodded. The Nebo spacecraft lands in a docking bay at the Mos Espa spaceport. A swirl of sand announces its arrival and the start of the passengers' adventures on the desert planet. The boarding ramp was down and Revan was walking towards it with her husband and droid behind her. She had ignored Panaka's whining about exposing the Queen to danger and how they should have hidden the ship out amongst the dunes. Tell you what, Captain. Between the two of us, who's been away from Nibu more? She finally said, the Hutts are vile beasts. He tried, and I'm a former Sith Lord. She spun on her heel and walked away while the man sputtered. Revim, Nar asked, pulling up the hood of his robe. It hasn't changed much, she muttered. Rev, sorry, love, she said and turned to him. She stopped whatever she was about to say as she saw Captain Panaka come down the ramp with the Queen's handmaid Aiden. Pavari Pali, no Padme, Her Highness wishes to learn more about this planet and requests you take her handmaiden with you. He said once they caught up with them. No, not taking requests today. She looked back to the ship as Obi-Wan finally joined them. Took you long enough, Padawan, she said, ignoring Panaka. Sorry, Master Revan. Had trouble getting to the hyperdrive to get its markings. She nodded and turned back to Panaka and Padme. Very well, make this a regular school trip and keep an eye on the kids. She looked at Naruto, who was slipping away slowly. And where do you think you're going, dear? He paused and saw Obi-Wan smile. Oh, HK wants to do an analysis of the surrounding area to compare it to his memory banks, and I thought I'd scout around and keep out of your way as you got new parts. She looked at him and narrowed her eyes. He's shielding, which means HK-47, she said. Yes, Master. What are you and my husband going to be doing for real? She heard Naruto's muttered, damn, statement. Master's mate has inquired about causing large amounts of property damage and perhaps learning this unit's primary functions. Revan closed her eyes. She knew having these two in the same system would be trouble. I just never thought they would start so quickly. She opened her eyes to find them gone. Nar, she yelled and rounded on Obi-Wan who put Padme between him and the danger of a mad wife. Padawan, fetch R2-D2. It seems we will need his services. She looked at the handmaiden and waited till Obi-Wan was on the ship. Now, Your Highness, care to explain what game you're playing? Padme palled. How? Revan smiled. Both my husband I suspected something the moment we saw the Queen's reactions back on Nibu and how you were the first to speak up as if coaching her. Padme sighed. You're not going to tell, are you? No. Both Naruto and I are used to decoys. Back on my husband's home world, it is a standard practice for many people to use a body double. We will keep this under our caps if you will turn the phrase. But you will stay close to either myself or Nar. What about Obi-Wan? Revan raised her eyebrow. She said nothing and soon the pair were joined by the flustered-looking Obi-Wan and the dome-topped Ardu. Let's go. After we deal with getting the parts, we'll find my husband and droid. How are we going to do that, Master? Obi-Wan asked. Simple. Follow the mass destruction. Revan said leading them away from the spaceport. Naruto sighed as he stepped out of the shadows. Nearly as bad as Suna in the summer, he muttered, wiping his brow. He looked at HK. Statement. What an unorthodox means of concealment. Thanks. Used to use the same manner when I was a child to hide from Anbu and Jonin. Inquiry. And these Anbu and Jonin were skilled in assassination and tracking. Oh yeah. Imagine this. HK. A whole village built around the concept of assassination, espionage, and subterfuge. Thrilling sensation. Oh master. My circuits are in flux with the thought of what meat bags can do to improvise in such ways to make them efficient killers. Naruto shook his head. Well, have to work on your language skills. HK, you don't need to say statement and such when you talk. Now, let's find us a bounty office or hunter's guild. Recitation. Guilds are marked usually near the port. A hunter's permit will be needed in order to collect. Nar nodded as they continued to walk. He pulled off the Jedi robes and shoved them into his pack, as well as his jacket, leaving him in a midnight blue muscle shirt and black cargo pants. What I wouldn't give for orange, he thought. Revan had replaced his wardrobe since they arrived on Coruscant, and he had blues and greens and even a few rust reds and oranges in the darker color, but nothing bright. Is that a hunter's den? Nar asked. Negative. That master is a bar. Excellent. Let's go. Not an enjoyable pastime. Master statement. You shall not be like Metag Rand and hide in there. Who? Never mind. No, I want to see something. Nar said, and the assassin droid was left with no choice but to follow him. The little group walks down the main street of Mos Espa. Revan ignores the dangerous-looking citizens of numerous species. Padme is in awe of the exotic environment, moisture farms for the most part. There are also a few indigenous tribes and scavengers. Revan said to the girl when she asked about the numerous species. The few spaceports like this one are havens for those who don't want to be found. Padme nodded, sort of like us. Arto whistles and Obi-Wan listens as well, his eyes in constant motion as he's taken it upon himself to protect the Queen's handmaiden. They enter a plaza surrounded by several junk and spaceship dealers. I think we'll try one of the smaller dealers first. Revan says after scanning the plaza with a practiced ease of experience. She points them to one shop that, while small, has a huge pile of broken spaceships stacked up behind it. The trio and droid enter the dingy junk shop and are greeted by a pudgy blue alien who flies on short little wings that sound like a hummingbird's. Hi Chuba Danaga. What do you want? Revan sighs Hut's figures. I need parts for AJ Type 327. Nubian. The creature smiles a tooth grin and switches to basic. Ah, yes. Yes, Nubian. We have lots of that. What kind of junk? Pedinkle. Naba Duno. Boy, get in here now. Revan motions towards R2. My droid here has a readout of what I need. She says and looks on as a disheveled boy runs in from the junkyard. H looks about 9. Can't really tell under all that dirt and those rags. Revan thinks and her eyes narrow as the Toydarian raises a hand to the boy who flinches. Revan listens in as the pair speak in Huts. Kuna Titaka. The Toydarian snarls. What took you so long? The boy answers, his eyes down. Melt tassa chop pasa. I was cleaning the bin like you. The Toydarian cut him off. Chuch chut. Gando Walia Midwana. Noatata. Never mind. Watch the store. I've got some selling to do here. The Toydarian looks back at Revan. Sue, let me take the outback. Nee, you'll find what you need. Revan and Ardu follow the Toydarian, leaving Obi-Wan and Padme with the boy. Obi-Wan wanders around the shop. He's keeping his hands to himself, knowing that anything around them could spell disaster, and he certainly didn't have credits to pay for anything. The boy sits on the counter, pretending to clean a part, but his eyes keep drifting towards Padme. The handmaiden is embarrassed by his stare, but musters an amused smile. Obi-Wan is watching and smirks as he sees the boy muster up the courage to finally speak. Are you an angel? That had not been what either teen had been expecting. Padme finds her voice. What an angel. The boy continues, now, I've heard the deep space pilots talk about them. They live on the moons of Igo. I think they are said to be the most beautiful creatures in the universe. They are said to be good and kind. They even are said to be so pretty that they make the most hardened of spice pirates cry. Obi-Wan turns away trying to control his laughter, but Padme's look tells him he's failing miserably. The two share a look and he shrugs. Her look he understands is thanks a lot. I've never heard of angels. Padme says with a shrug. The boy shrugs. You must be one and just not know it. Obi-Wan muffles his laugh into his hand, making it sound like a cough. You're a funny little boy. How do you know so much about angels? Padme asks. The boy shrugs. Since I was very little, 3, maybe 4, I think. My mom and I were sold to Gardula the Hutt, but she lost us betting on the Padraces to Wat, who's a lot better master than Gardula, I think. Anyways, you're a slave, she asks, and looks at Obi-Wan. The Jedi looks sadly. The boy looks at Padme. A look of defiance appears in his eyes. I'm a person. My name is Anakin, he says, putting the part he was cleaning down. I'm sorry. I don't fully understand. She looks around. This is all strange to me. This world is strange to me. She admits. Anakin studies her, his eyes looking at her intently. And you are a strange girl to me. Obi-Wan wasn't paying attention as he was laughing and his elbow bumps in the nose of what appears to be a little droid. It instantly comes to life, grows legs and arms, then starts moving around, knocking over everything. Obi-Wan panics and tries to grab hold of it and stop it. Anakin pipes up from his spot on the counter. Hit the nose. Obi-Wan finally does. The droid collapses back into its original state. He looks up sheepishly, hearing Anakin and Padme laugh. She's got a pretty laugh, he thinks. Both Anakin and Obi-Wan watch as Padme collects herself and straightens her hair. Meanwhile, out behind the shop, Watt reads a small portable monitor he is holding. He stands before the hyperdrive. Ah, here it is. At 14 hyperdrive generator. Be in luck. I'm the only one here who has one, but they might as well buy a new ship. It would be cheaper, I think. Saying of which, how's they going to pay for all this? Revan smiles. I have 20,000 Republic dairies. Republic credits. Republic credits are no good out here. I need something more real. Revan cursed. Damn it to Odo and back. I knew I shouldn't have left Coruscant without other forms of currency. But no, I just had to listen to Kian. This will teach me to ignore my instincts. Damn modern Jedi are too assured in their ways. I currently don't have anything else. She raises her hand, but credits will be fine. No, they want to, Wad says. Revan sigh at the stubbornness of the Toydarian race, but she tries using a Jedi mind trick again as she waves her hand once more. Credits will do fine, she says. No, they want to. What? You think you're some kind of Jedi? Waving your hand around like that. I'm a Toydarian. Mind tricks dawn to work on me. Only money, no parts, no deal, and no one else has a T-14 hyperdrive. I promise you that. Back in the junk shop, Anakin is talking with Padme. Obi-Wan is listening, but not saying anything. I wouldn't have lasted long if I weren't so good at fixing things. I'm making my own droids. Revan enters the shop, a stormy expression on her face as she's followed by R2. We're leaving, she says. Obi-Wan follows her while Padme pauses and looks at Anakin. I'm glad I met you. Ah, Anakin. The boy says, Anakin. Padme says with a smile. Anakin Skywalker, he says. Padme hesitates. Then, Padme, she says, and turns. Anakin looks sad as he watches her leave. I'm glad I met you too, he calls out as Wad comes from the junkyard, shaking his head. Revan, R2, Obi-Wan, and Padme have found a quiet alcove between two buildings. The busy street beyond is filled with dangerous-looking creatures. Revan is talking into a comlink with Ki Gon back on the ship while the others watch the street. You're sure there isn't anything of value left on board? Revan asks. A few containers of supplies, the Queen's wardrobe, perhaps not enough for you to barter with. Not in the amounts you're talking about. Khan's voice comes over the comlink. All right, another solution will present itself. It always does. I'll check back later. You haven't heard from Naruto, have you? No, I thought he was with you. Khan's voice takes on a hint of worry. He and HK are doing some bonding. Never mind, I'll find him. She puts the comlink away and starts walking out onto the main street, but Padme stops her by grabbing her arm. Is that a good idea? We could be robbed or assaulted. She asked, pointing out to the same thing happening up the street. Revan smiles. Not likely. We have nothing of value. Obi-Wan adds his own. And Revan knew it was from him hanging around with Nar. That's the problem. They were walking the market when they found Nar and HK-47. Revan saw them as a Doug tried to assault her husband and was then slammed against the wall. HK had the barrel of his assault rifle digging into the Doug's neck. She couldn't hear what was said, but she'd never in her life seen a Doug turn that shade of white before. Nar let him go, and she watched as the creature skewered back to a stall. That was so, wizard. Revan and the others turned to see Anakin standing there. You know that guy, my husband, Revan says with a smile as Naruto, sensing her turns and smiles. He picked a fight with a Doug, a dangerous one at that. He's called Sabula. Revan and the others take it. They should know the name, but she turns and looks at her grinning husband. You just can't stay out of trouble. Can you, dear? She asks once he's close enough. Me? Not at all. Bender tried to rip me off and grabbed my arm. Then I smacked his hand and it hit some kind of roasted rat. It went flying and hit that bug. It's a Doug deer, she said. Nar shrugged. He came up and tried to throttle me. I took offense as all. Obi-Wan shook his head at his friend. You can find trouble with your eyes closed, my friend. Regardless, the boy was right in one way, Revan said. Oh, Nar asked, raising an eyebrow. You are heading into trouble. You left me. Obi-Wan and Padme share smiles as Revan backs him up, poking Nar in the chest. Obi-Wan wonders what else could make her smile like that. Revan grabs Naruto's arm, and the pair start walking the crowded street. Anakin follows. He's curious about the strange outlanders who upset Wat, and his eyes drifted towards Padme and then Revan. In his mind, both women were the most beautiful creatures he'd ever seen. A loud sound causes them all to stop and they hear it again. Revan sighs. Your stomach. As Naruto grins and shrugs his shoulders, they stop at a fruit stand run by a jolly but very poor-looking old lady that Anakin called Jira. How are you feeling today, Jira? Anakin asked. The heat's never been kind to me, you know. Annie. Jira says, well, guess what? I've found that cooling unit I've been searching for. It's pretty beat up, but I'll have it fixed up for you in no time. I promise. Anakin tells her, you're a fine boy, Annie. A fine boy indeed. Jira says, I'll take 4 police today. He says, then looks at Padme. You'll like these. Anakin reaches into pocket, coming up with several coins. He drops one and Obi-Wan picks it up, revealing for a moment his lightsaber. Anakin's eyes widen. Shaking himself, he counts out 3. Whoops, I thought I had more. Jira waves him off and hands a poly to each of the people with the boy. Nar looks at it and takes a bite. Sweet. Like those burble fruits Conqueror found in the north that one spring. He tells his wife. She looks at Jira. I know that Republic credits aren't any good. Nar snorts. Here, Ba-chan. He holds up a ruby. Everyone's eyes widen. Where did you get that? Revan asked as Jira's hands shake. That stone was worth enough currency to last her years. Well, HK and I visited a bar earlier. Got into a scuffle. Took it to the alley. Let's just say those. What were they again, HK? Informative. Dead. Nar laughed. That is their current state. But I meant what species were they again? They looked like pig men. Gamorreans. Revan said with a sigh. You probably killed one of the local hut's guards. Nar shrugged. He handed over the credits. Their weapons sucked, so we chucked them in a bin. Can you believe they shattered with a simple reiki? Revan shook her head at her husband's antics. Well, we have some money that will work around here. Did you check out the hunter's den? Affirmative, Master. Only sand people are on the roster. And Master Naruto informed this unit that he wasn't sure if you would approve until we asked you. Revan sighed. I don't. We will avoid the sand people this time. HK. No disintegrations. The others watched as the droid made a whining sound and looked at Nar. Don't look at me like that. I know who's boss. While they'd been talking, the wind had picked up. Shop owners are starting to close their shops. Gracious, my bones are aching. Storm's coming on, Annie. You'd better get home quick. The boy looks at Revan. Do you have shelter? Well, head back to our ship, she said to the boy. There was something about him that was nagging at the back of her mind. The far starport near the northern outskirts. Nar supplied as he finished poly. His eyes was on Revan's now, and she moved it away from him with a practiced ease. You'll never reach it in time. Sandstorms are very, very dangerous, Anakin said, stressing the word dangerous. Revan smiled but agreed. Hell, that time mission. HK and I got stuck out in the desert near Anarhead. We were buried in 10 minutes. She thought, come with me. Hurry, Anakin said as he turned down a street. The group followed the boy as he rushed down several windy streets. Nar looked at his wife as the sand kicked up, making visibility difficult. Who is the kid? The group follows Anakin down another street and into a hovel. They enter a small living space as Anakin yells out, Mom, I'm home. HK-47 looks around and shakes his metal shoulders. Statement. The unit would rather face the sandstorm than this disgustingly cozy home. He behavior I'll remove your targeting programs, Revan said just before a woman who looks to be in her 40s enters. She seems warm and friendly and startled seeing a group of people in her home. Oh my Annie, what is the meaning of this? She asks. The boy looks at her. These are my friends, Mom. This is Padme and I don't know the others. Nar snorted while Obi-Wan's whispered, someone's got a crush. To Padme had the said girl elbowing the Padawan in the chest. Revan forced to act as the responsible adult steps forward. I'm Revan Namikaze. This blonde lunk behind me is my husband Nar. Next to Padme is our friend Obi-Wan Kenobi. R2 whistles and Revan smiles at the droid. I was getting to that little one. And of course, our droids R2-D2 and HK-47. Anakin pipes up. I'm building a droid. You want to see Anakin? His mother says stopping the boy. Why are they here? Howling Wind answers as does the boy. A sandstorm. Mom, listen. Your son was kind enough to offer us shelter. Revan said, come on, let me show you 3PO. Anakin says enthusiastically as he leads Padme into the other room. Arto and HK-47 follow the astromech droid beeping and whistling at the assassin droid. Correction. Perhaps small meat bag could be used for target practice. Revan looks at SHMI and pulls out a scroll which she hands to Nar. Let my husband make dinner. We have more than enough supplies and it will be no trouble for us to do this for you letting us stay here. Oh, thank you. A surprised SHMI said. I'm sorry if I was abrupt. I don't think he'll ever get used to Anakin's surprises. Revan nodded from experience as she shot her husband a look. He's a very special boy. SHMI sees the look and smiles. Yes, I know. Go sit, Nar says as he opens cabinets and pulls out utensils and bowls and pots. Rev, I need that other scroll. SHMI turned and froze, seeing so many green vegetables. And is that fresh meat? She thought. Nar caught the scroll his wife threw at him. Gossip, he said as he started to slice and dice. In Anakin's bedroom, he was showing off his droid, which was lying on his workbench. There is one eye in the head. The body, arms, and legs have no outer coverings. Isn't he great? I know he's not finished yet. Padme was impressed. He's wonderful. You really like him. He's a protocol droid. I'm making him to help mom. Watch this. Anakin says as he pushes a switch on the droid. Aloe fills the room as it sits up. Oh dear, I can't see. It whines. Whoops. Anakin says and rushes to the other side of the room, grabs a second eye from a battered bag and pushes it into the socket. How do you do? I am C-3PO, human-cyborg relations. How might I serve you? The prissy-sounding droid asked. Self-termination would be a start. HK snarked from the doorway. Padme shot the droid a look before looking at 3PO. He's perfect. Oh, thank you. 3PO says when the storm is over. You want to see my racer? I'm building my very own pod racer. Anakin says. Padme smiles at the younger boy's enthusiasm. Her attention is drawn to R2, who lets out a series of beeps and whistles. I beg your pardon. What do you mean I'm? Frio inquires. R2 beeps again. My parts are showing. Oh my goodness, how embarrassing. Statement. This unit would be more than happy to rectify that with a new procedure. R2's whistles sound like laughter. HK looks down at the droid before him. Interesting suggestion. You are not as useless as the last cargo cylinder master had. Obi-Wan, who had been on the other side of the door, was wondering why he followed the pair. He knew he didn't like the amount of attention the boy was giving the handmaiden, but he couldn't figure out why. Revan is enjoying talking with SHMI when her comm link shines. If you'll excuse me, she rises and goes towards the door. Go ahead, she listens as Keegan explains the message they had gotten and the Queen's reaction. I've kept them from sending a reply, but it's bait. They used it to establish a connection trace. Sneaky, Revan muttered. I sense that it was true. People of Nebo are dying. He gone said, Revan sighed. Either way, we're running out of time. Ask Rick if there's a way to boost our communications ability and send a transmission to Kruscant. I will. I'll check back after the storm has passed. Did you find your wandering husband before you were forced to seek shelter? Yeah, found him in HK negotiating with a Doug. A Doug, he gone sounded surprised. Don't ask and I won't have to lie. Take it easy out there. She clicked the comm link off with a sigh. Something rotten in rice, she muttered before heading back to find SHMI watching Naruto cook and telling his tales. Revchan can't cook to save her life. Nar said with a grin. Give her something mechanical to fix and she's fine. Put her in a kitchen and you'll need a new one, as the old one is declared public hazard and what she's made can be used as chemical warfare. SHMI couldn't help but chuckle. I thought I told you no telling tales of my mistakes, dear. She said sweetly, not a tale the gospel truth. Even Lee with his iron stomach couldn't eat your curry. Revan pouted. I'm just skilled in other areas and I'm happy to cook. Nar said with a grin. So how long have you been married? SHMI asked. The pair shared a look and both shrugged. We've been married nearly 60-some years. SHMI looked shocked. How is that possible? Both Naruto and I come from a species that's long-lived, Revan said, not telling her that I'm over 4,000 years old. They could hear Anakin's voice, not the words. He is so proud of his droid. Rev's droid HK she built as well. His old body was destroyed, so she got a new one and heavily modified it. Nar said die subservient transistor HK no Padme's yell came Master Anakin 3PO's voice followed by a blaster shot. Me went to see what was going on but Revan stopped her and held up a single finger. All right, Obi-Wan's voice came from Anakin's workshop. SHMI looked at Revan who shrugged. Children you know they'll find or create trouble she said with a shrug. Nar snorted and think none the Mars. The storm continued to howl outside as the Skywalkers and their guests sat down around the makeshift table to a cooked meal. Anakin's eyes widened at the feast. They chatter while the droids are powered down. All slaves have transmitters placed inside their bodies somewhere. SHMI was saying. Anakin butted in with, I've been working on a scanner to try and locate them, but so far I haven't had any luck. Any attempt to escape, SHMI was saying. But once again, Anakin cut her off and they blow you up. Boom. Padme looks horrified. I can't believe there is still slavery in the galaxy. The Republic's anti-slavery laws. The Republic doesn't exist out here. We must survive on our own. SHMI said, add in if you're wealthy enough, even on Coruscant, the wealthy have slaves. Twilight females are prime examples. Revan said. Obi-Wan nodded as he thought of several of his fellow Padawans who escaped that fate by being found by the Jedi Order. Has anyone seen a pod race? Anakin asked, filling the awkward silence. Padme shook her head. No. SHMI looks concerned. Rev used to swoop race in her younger days. Nar said swoop racing. Anakin asked. Before your time. Revan said with a grin. Before they added those big engines, when it was more about skill than the power of the engine, where the swoop bike and rider were the only thing that mattered. Obi-Wan speaks up. I saw one once. They have pod racing on Molastaire. Very fast, very dangerous. I'm the only human who can do it. Anakin boasts while SHMI looks askance at her son. Mom, what? I'm not bragging. It's true. Watt says he's never heard of a human doing it. Revan smiles. You must have Jedi reflexes if you race pods. Anakin beam and is about to gesture and say something when he knocks his cup from the table. Nar next to him reaches out, his hand a blur as he catches it without spilling a drop. He puts it back by the sheepish boy. Our ninja reflexes. Nar shoot his wife a fox-like grin. Our ninja reflexes. Revan admits. Careful, Gaki. It's better to be calm and enjoy things at a pace when you can. He said, giving Anakin a wink. Anakin looks at the blonde next to him, then at Obi-Wan. I was wondering, he began. What? Revan asked with an encouraging smile. You're a Jedi Knight, aren't you? What makes you say that? Obi-Wan asks. I saw your laser sword earlier. Only Jedi carry that kind of weapon, Anakin states. Revan leans back from the table, a slow smiling filling her face as she shares a look with Nar. Perhaps we killed a Jedi and stole it from him. She offered. Anakin shook his head. Revan was amused by his convictions in his beliefs. I don't think so. No one can kill a Jedi Knight. Revan got a far away and distant look. I wish that were so. Anakin, being his youthful self, plowed on, unaware of Revan's thoughts. I had a dream I was a Jedi. I came back here and freed all the slaves. Have you come to free us? Revan snapped out of her thoughts and shook her head. No, I'm afraid not, she started to say, but Anakin cut her off with, I think you have. Why else would you be here? Revan and Nar share a look. Well, love. Naruto sends across the bond. He's a more annoying, if possible, younger version of you. Revan fired back as she thought. You can't let anyone know about us. We're on a diplomatic mission to Coruscant, the central system in the Republic. It's a very important mission and must be kept a secret. Coruscant. Wow. Anakin said, his eyes widening. But how did you end up here in the Outer Rim? Our ship was badly damaged. Padme said, and we're stranded here until we can repair it. I can help. I can fix anything, Anakin said excitedly. Nar shot Revan a look. Now he sounds like you love. Did we have a child you didn't tell me about? Across the way, Revan rolled her eyes at her husband. No, I'm still on birth control. I will admit, the Gaki does grow on you. I believe you can, Nar said to Anakin. Obi-Wan added his own thoughts. But we need to acquire the parts in order to fix it. And nothing to trade, Padme said with a sigh. These junk dealers must have a weakness of some kind. Gambling, SHMI said with a frown. Everything around here revolves around betting on those awful races. Revan saw the look on the woman's face. Greed can be a powerful ally if used properly. Anakin spoke up. I've built a racer. It's the fastest ever. And there's a big race day after tomorrow on Bota Eve. You could enter my pod. It's nearly finished. Anakin, settle down. And you know what won't let you. Wad doesn't know I built it. He looks at Revan with big pleading eyes. You could make him think it's yours and you could get him to let me pilot it for you. Revan sees SHMI is very upset. I don't want you to race, Annie. It's awful. I die every time What makes you do it. But mom, I love it. And they need help. They're in trouble. The prize money would more than pay for the parts they need. That's enough, Squirt, Nar said. And we're not in that much trouble. He stood and bowed to SHMI. I am sorry if our discussion has caused you any pain, but Anakin said and then looked at his mother. Your mother is right, Revan said, cutting him off. Do you know of anyone friendly to the Republic out here who might be able to help us? Shmi shakes her head. No. Mom, we have to help them. You said that the biggest problem in the universe is no one helps each other. Anakin wed. Anakin, don't. Shmi began. I'm sure Revan doesn't want to put your son in danger. We will find another way. Padme said. Shmi sighs. No, Annie's right. There is no other way. The Hutts control everything here. I may not like it, but he can help you. Softer. He was meant to help you. Is that a yes? That is a yes. Anakin whoops. While outside the storm continues to rage. Well, Anakin asked as he showed them the pod the next morning after the sandstorm passed. Revan looked at the pod, looked at the sky. This issue, isn't it? She muttered. Naruto looked at it and scratched his head. He looked at HK and that's comedic line. Little Metag believes that is to be a racer. The droid said. HK. Revan said, yes, master. The droid stood straighter. Do you have a thermal detonator? Joyous statement. But of course I do, master. Can I frag the little meat sack now? Everyone froze. No. Anakin looked at the droid in surprise while Padme and Obi-Wan breathed sigh of relief. But I am tempted to send you to talk with Woe for me. Joyous compliance. The assassin droid said and turned. Freeze. Revan said. That was not an order. That was me being annoyed. Nar smirked seeing the droid's skeletal shoulders slump. Look at it this way. HK. While they work on the pod, you and I get to thin the cantina's excess criminal population. The droid's eye sensors seemed to glow as it unslung the assault rifle. Ready, Revan Sidate. Go play. Stay out of jail, she said with a resigned sigh. Nar whooped and rushed up, kissed her, then grabbed HK-47. The pair vanished in a sand shushan. How did he do that? Obi-Wan and Anakin asked at the same time. Padme looked shocked and R2 was next to 3PO beeping that they vanished from his sensors. It's one of his many skills. Now tell me about the engines. She commanded Anakin as she pulled off her robe standing there in a sleeveless top and pants. Naruto smiled as he looked at the data pad. Bounty hunting is easier. He muttered as he looked at the information. Master, I am experiencing an abundance of being overjoyed. HK said as they returned to the bounty office for the 6th time in the last hour. The scruffy human behind the counter saw him coming. You keep this up, kid, and you'll be out of business. Nar shrugged and put the sack with the bounty's head in it on the counter. You don't want the live bounties? The man asked. Nah, don't have time nor desire to haul them all over. I need cash and fast. Got a bounty on your head I should know about? The office worker asked as he counted out the credits. Nar smirked. Nope. But anyone dumb enough to come at me gets to deal with him. Nar jerked his thumb towards HK. Master is too kind. Statement. This unit cannot wait until you inform Mistress that you installed new weapons learning software. Nar smirked. He knew Revan wouldn't mind. And the shuriken launchers on the droid's arms would be an added weapon. Nice droid. How come he isn't fitted with a restraining bolt? The office worker asked. Don't need it. He looked at the bounty wall. Sand people. Mistress would not be pleased. HK reminded the blonde. I know, but it's better than putting all our eggs in one basket with that stupid race. Race? You mean the Bonta Eve opener? The bounty officer asked. Yeah, what do you know? I know to bet heavily on Sabula. The man said, Sabula, a Doug. He's one of the dirtiest racers, but he's won the last 9 races in a row. Doug, no, it couldn't be. Shaking his head, Nar grabbed a bounty off the wall. Come on, HK. We have a Rodian to track down. Bring this one back alive, the officer said, looking at the bleeding sack. He's too good at this, the man muttered. Revan got the mental message from Nar, and she smiled, knowing her husband was right. Now to talk with Wat. Entering the shop, she sighed seeing the Toydarian hovering by the counter arguing with the boy in huts. Pagobola from Wat Noah from the 9-year-old who looked serious. Punky Maki Chilia Wat countered. Bano Bo Anakin fired back. Wat noticed Revan. The boy tells me you want to sponsor him in a race. You can't afford parts. How can you do this? Not on Republic credits, I think. The Toydarian finishes with a laugh. My husband has acquired enough for the entry fee doing some bounty work. Revan says with a shrug, and if it's not enough, then our ship will be used, she says, pulling out a small object that looks like a watch from a pocket and a hologram of the Nebo spacecraft appears. Wat studies it. Unless your husband is Jango Fett or Aura Singh, then he won't get enough credits in time to matter. His big yellow eyes look at the hologram again. This, however, not bad. Not bad. In Nubian. Revan smirked at the greed in the creature's eyes. It's in good order except for the parts we need. But what would the boy ride? He smashed up my pod in the last race. It will take some time to fix it. Anakin looks at the ground embarrassed, but steps forward. Ah, it wasn't my fault really. Sabula flashed me with his bent ports. I actually saved the pod mostly. Wat laughs. That you did. Looks back at Revan. The boy is good. No doubts there. She nods in agreement. I have acquired a pod in a game of chance. I'm told it's the fastest ever built. Wat looks thoughtful. I hope you didn't kill anyone I know for it. Laughs. So, you supply the pod and the entry fee. I supply the boy. We split the winnings 50-50, I think. Revan mentally rolls her eyes. 50-50. If it's going to be 50-50, I suggest you front the cash for the entry. If we win, you keep all the winnings minus the cost of the parts one need. If we lose, you keep my ship. Wat hovers there in the air and thinks it over while Anakin looks like he's trying very hard not to be nervous. Revan adds the push. Either way, you win. Deal, Wat says and slaps hands with Revan, who leaves to make preparations. Wat looks at Anakin. Yo biho miya, your friend is a foolish one, methinks later that day at the Skywalker Hubble. Revan is on the comm link with Khan, having not had a chance to return to the ship with the errands she ran. What if this plan fails? Voice comes over the communicator. We could be stuck here for a long time. Then Revan smiles. A ship without a power supply will not get us anywhere. There is something about the boy we've encountered as well, and stops and promises is to call him back when they have more information. She turns as SHMI comes out onto the porch. The two women watch as Padmé and Ardu help Anakin work on the engines of the Podrar below in the courtyard. You should be proud of your son, Revan says with a grin. He gives without any thought of reward. He knows nothing of greed despite being surrounded by it. He's special. Revan says yes. SHMI answers. Revan watched as the boy was hanging half in and half out of the engine. Her own fingers were itching to tear into the heat that lay about the yard. He can see things before they happen. That's why he appears to have such quick reflexes. It is a Jedi trait. In the back of her mind, she could almost hear her husband's voice say, Ninja, too, dear. He deserves better than a slave's life. SHMI says softly, her own eyes looking down where her son was. The Force is unusually strong with him. That much is clear to anyone. Who was his father? SHMI looked embarrassed. There was no father that I know of. I carried him. I gave birth to him. I can't explain what happened. Her eyes looked up at Revan, pleading. Can you help him? Revan let out a breath. He had been very clear on this subject to her. Her ears were still ringing from his lecture. I'm afraid not. Had he born in the Republic or 4,000 years ago, Revan added mentally, the Jedi would have identified him early and he would have become a Jedi. No doubt he has the aura about him. But now it's too late for him. By the Council standards, he's too old. Bunch of blind fools, Revan added her mental rant. She sees several kids around Anakin's age come up. She didn't know what was said, but she could feel the boy's emotions. Oh frack, he's strong. And at 9, this is not only Sununade's revenge, but I bet my diamond-plated lightsaber hilt that Brooke is laughing at me from the Force as well. Excuse me, SHMI, Revan said and rushed down the steps. Oh, you did not, Nar roared as he looked at his jacket, which now sported a blaster hole. If he hadn't spun, it would have gutted him. Instead, the side sported a blackened hole. That's it. His hands went to the familiar cross seal. Cage Bunchon. The rundown cantina was now filled with 30 shadow clones. Naruto's lightsaber activated in his hand, and the clones pulled swords. Get them. HK-47 had just finished blasting the hired guards when his optics focused on his original master's mate. Impressive destructive capabilities. You are worthy of my master, Nar. Rengan HK-47, if he had been able, would have smiled as the blue orb slammed into the Rodian. Naruto had explained that the attack ground and pulverized the insides of a target. HK noticed a human sneaking up on Naruto from behind. The assassin droid brought his assault rifle up to take aim, but there was no need as Naruto, with years of sensing danger, spun and punted the short human up into the ceiling with a well-timed kick. Impressive, Master, HK said as his optics focused on the dangling from its neck in the ceiling. Most amusing decor you've developed. Nar smiled as he put a foot on the Rodian as it lay on the ground, groaning. Shut up. I didn't hit you that hard. Gleeful statement. You can do it again, Master. Nar smirked. I could, but the meat sack at the bounty office asked for this one alive. Weary resignation. Very well, Master. Perhaps we can hunt a crate dragon or even a couple of sand people next. Nar thought about it. As long as we don't tell Revan. Compliance, Master. I don't think this was the plan, Master. HK said as they backed away from the crate dragon. Hey, you're the one that said there was a sand people conclave around here. Nar said as he sent a fireball jutsu at the giant lizard. Things change in 4,000 years. Master HK opened fire with the assault rifle. The crested a sand dune and Naruto swore. There was a group of sand people with their banthas. HK while they had been hunting explained about the known species on the planet that Naruto Betgar would have had a field day on. The giant lizard roared. The sand people scattered. They are easily frightened master, but they'll be back with greater numbers. HK warned as the droid continued firing at the dragon, its hide deflecting the blasts. Nar slid the blaster the droid had been teaching how to use back into the thigh holster and growled. Enough of this, underscore. He bit his thumb and his hands flew through seals he'd learned when he was 11 years old. Ku Chiyos Utai Kuzushi no JJUTSUHK stopped firing and couldn't believe his optics as a giant toad appeared out of thin air and landed atop the crate dragon crushing it. Nar grinned a huge fox-like grin that my cybernetic friend is the toad summoning jutsu food cart destroyer. I learned it from my master when I was 15 and we were traveling. HK looked from the smashed form of the crate dragon that had taken explosives to take out and a giant toad landing on it from a 100 feet drop wipes it out. You are my hero, master, HK said, its vocal patterns registering awe. Nar went and pulled his lightsaber, started slicing the hide from the frame. HK remembered something Revan had done. Reached into the creature's neck and pulled out a pair of pearls for you, master. Mistress found them valuable last time we hunted one. Nar used a sweetened jutsu to clean the blood and gore off them and looked at them whistling. He slipped them into a pouch and hid that inside his shirt. What are we doing, master? HK asked 20 minutes later as Naruto sliced another section of the dragon's hide off. Getting material. This stuff was able to block blaster bolts. I was thinking of a pair of boots, gloves, and vests, belts, and such for Revan. HK nodded his metal head. Mating ritual. Understood. Master Nar smiled. He was really getting along with the droid. He was happy to see it had an odd sense of humor. HK, try those wrist blades I installed. I believe Rev said they were coated with a material that could block a lightsaber. Let's see how they do on cutting meat. Well, cook some of this, smoke it for later. Nar set up a fire while the droid continued to work. He could tell through the bond with his wife she was annoyed. What's wrong, love? He sent. If we ever have children, remind me to never let them act like this little brat. Naro wondered what the Skywalker boy had done to piss off his wife when he felt a disturbance in the Force. As much as I'd love to talk, it seems HK and I are about to get in a fight with Sand People. Sand People, where are you? Revan's telepathic voice demanded. In the desert with HK. Talk later, love. Nar said and closed the connection to his wife. He could feel her knocking. But decades of being married to the Jedi Sith had taught him when not to pick up, and when she was annoyed and at him, he knew best to stay away until sunset. HK, we've got company. The droid stopped its butchery. The blades retracted with a SNKT and the assassin droid unslung the assault rifle and Naro heard it power up. Ready. Nar smiled as he saw the droid arm the grenade launcher. Oh, I fear the Sand People are going to find we aren't helpless as their usual fare, he said, activating his lightsaber with the snap hiss. And I so need to work off tension before getting yelled at by my wife. Amen, Revan said as she glared at Obi-Wan, who was backing away from the very pissed off Jedi Master. I'm sure the boy didn't mean it, Master Revan. He said, oh, he meant it. She snarled as she finished getting dressed by pulling on her robe and looking to where the said boy had retreated. You get the parts. Sorry, Master, but what claims if the pod isn't running, he's not fronting the money. Damn it to black pits. Revan bunched her fists and for a moment considered joining her husband amongst the dunes and help decrease the surplus Sand People population. She looked at the Padawan. You guard that door while Padme is taking her own shower. If that little sneak gets close, hang him upside down and bolt his to the ceiling. Grabbing a brush, she wanted her husband and growled as she brushed her hair. This is one reason I hate Tatooine. Sand is coarse, rough, and gets everywhere, she thought as she brushed her long hair. She sat in the living room brushing her hair. Every so often she'd hear the blasted boy move about his room. Can I come out now? No, you're grounded, Revan said. SHMI lets him run feral. Well, not while I'm here. She considered turning him over her knee for some of his smartass comments while they were rebuilding the engines. Oh, he's good for one so young, but Force. I've been building machines since long before he was even a glimmer in the Force. Shaking her head, she began to braid her hair. Her eyes snapped to the door as Anakin tried to sneak out. Get the back in your room. Slam. Revan sighed. Brad needs a good spanking and manners. She muttered. R2, who was sitting off to the side, whistled. You said it. Padme sighed as she allowed the cool water to rush down her body. It wasn't like a shower at the palace. But I do have my very own personal Jedi guard. She thought with a smile. There is something about Obi-Wan. He's kind, shy, honorable, she smiled as she rinsed her hair. And he's standing right outside the door. She smiled. She knew Sab and the others would be disapproving. But there was something about the Padawan that she found soothing in his company. And he gets all girl-like whenever Anakin gives me a compliment. Granted, they're bumbling, but for 9 years old, he's trying awfully hard. All morning, the younger boy had been trying to impress her. She laughed as his engine blew up. Granted, Revan had been less than happy and downright pissed when the boy mouthed off to the Jedi Master. His mother's off working, and he's trying to act like a big shot. Padme thought she agreed with Revan when she activated her lightsaber when she caught the boy peeping on her in the shower. If her husband was here, I think he'd have fed him to that droid of theirs. She thought as she told off. She reached for clothes and blushed. Oh, darn, she muttered, realizing in her rush to get to the fresher and use the shower, she'd left her fresh clothes on her bed. Biting her bottom lip, she made a choice. Obi-Wan, she called through the door. Yes. His voice sounded startled, and she could imagine him blushing on the other side of the door. This is embarrassing, but I left my clothes in my room. Could you get them for me, please? Silence. Then just a moment. She heard his soft footsteps carry him away, and she continued to tell off. She thought what it was like for him at the Jedi Temple. They'd talked about it a bit last night, and she couldn't fathom some of the rules, and Master Revan's snorts told her the Master didn't agree with them. Obviously, as she's married and she uses her emotions, while Obi-Wan said that the Jedi in his age group were trained to suppress them or control them tighter. Lost in thought, Padme didn't hear the door open and she heard a sharp intake of breath. She turned and in so doing flashed poor Obi-Wan, who dropped her clothes to the floor and was blown backward by a massive nosebleed. Padme secured the towel around her and rushed to make sure that he was okay. Revan watched as Obi-Wan entered the room where they'd all slept. She'd not been happy with that as she wasn't allowed to sleep properly with her husband. Well, we could have maybe give the Padawan a proper education and see how well the handmaiden holds up. Revan smirked. She looked up to see Obi-Wan knock on the door and open it. A second later, she watched as he was blown back with a massive nosebleed and Padme rush out wrapped in a towel. I guess he's not as institutionalized as I first thought, she thought with a grin as Padme cradled his head in her lap. Revan started to giggle at what that would do to the Padawan. Standing up, she walked over. I suggest you go and get dressed, handmaiden, before he wakes up. It would be. Revan paused. Funny as hell. Oh, Cammy, I've been around Naruto way too long. Go get dressed, she finished. But Obi-Wan, Ben will be fine, she said, shooing the younger girl back to the bathroom. And once the door was closed, she toed the Padawan. Up and at him, Ben, you can wank off later when no one is around. The flushed face told her that he had been near consciousness. Oh, what can I do with this information? Our sweet little Padawan has a crush on the handmaiden. Obi-Wan was on his feet, and Revan saw he had managed to wipe his beard and nose clean. It really is a gift. All that blood and not one stain. Of course, that's the only time that power comes to life. Hey, Naruto called it part of the whole man law thing. Revan laughed. Relax, Padawan. The door hissed open and Padme stood there for a moment. Now we have an engine to finish. The race won't be run by pushing the damn pod. Revan headed for the door. Skywalker, come with me. She called and the boy looked out the door and then rushed to the woman's side. Once they were gone, Padme and Obi-Wan were left alone. One blushed and the other was nervous. This is weird, Padme muttered. Of course, I can't tell Sab and the others that he saw me. They'd kill the poor man. But the situation had inserted ideas in the young teen's head that involved a certain brown-haired Padawan. Revan took the money that Nar had collected and bought some of the parts needed on the cheap side. Stupid junk dealers. It's junk, not Cortus, she muttered as she handed another part to the boy behind her. But it's junk that people need. Thus, it's valuable. Revan looked at the boy. And on any other planet, they'd be shot. She looked over another series of parts. With a grunt, she led him back to the slave quarters. We're rushed for time, so we're going to cannibalize the engines. Revan told him, but nothing. If you hadn't tried to show off for your friends and to impress the handmaiden, we wouldn't be in this mess. I wasn't showing off. Anakin pouted. What the frack would you call it? Revan fired back. That stunt set fire to one engine and cracked the other. You're lucky they didn't explode. I knew what I was doing. Anakin said, no, you didn't. You didn't have the power distributed properly, and you had no safety protocols in place. If you'd have been racing, you'd have been a smear on the ground and ashes in an urn atop the mantle in your mother's home. Revan said, turning to look at the boy. You are beyond reckless. I'm sure you have some skills, but with no discipline and no control, you're a menace to not only those around you, but yourself. If Obi-Wan hadn't used the Force to deflect that outer casing, you'd be head shorter. I get it. I messed up. The boy yelled at her. His eyes narrowed and Revan could feel the anger flowing off him. And your emotions. What do you care? Anakin snarled and stormed back to the house. Sai and Sununade wanted me to have several of those, Revan said and followed after the stomping child. Later that night, Anakin is sitting on the balcony rail outside the hovel as Revan tends to a long cut on the boy's arm. You need to pay attention to what you are doing, she says. Anakin makes a sound as he leans back and looks up at the vast blanket of stars in the sky. Keep still and let me clean this. She mutters. But there are so many. Did they all have a system of planets? Anakin looked up. Obi-Wan had been talking about some of his adventures with his master Qui-Gon during dinner. Revan nodded. Most of them are they used to at any rate, thinking she needed to update her knowledge of the known systems once this mission was over. Has anyone been to all of them? Anakin asked. Revan snorted. Not likely, unless they were very long-living. Like me, she thought. Then I want to be the first one to see them all. Ow. Anakin winces and looks at Revan, who wipes a patch of blood off Anakin's arm. There, good as new. She really wanted to use some of the Jedi healing arts or some of the jutsu she knew. But something in the back of her mind was telling her to be careful and not show off too much. Like that mental warning I got around the Uchiha, she thought. From inside, SHMI yells out, Annie, bedtime. Anakin is distracted and Revan wipes the blood onto a chip. Anakin sees it, however. What are you doing? Just going to check your blood for infections. Revan lies with ease. I've never seen Annie. I'm not going to tell you again. SHMI yells from inside. Revan prods him. Go on. You have a big day tomorrow. Good night. Anakin rolls his eyes as he runs into the hovel that was his home. Revan slips the bloodstained ship into her comm link, then calls Khan. Master Jin. Revan, no. Another person with a comm link to your personal communicator. She snarks. Listen. I need you to make an analysis of this blood sample I'm sending you. There was a pause and she knew she'd woken the other master up and she grinned. Getting up there in years, Khan, not all of us are blessed with your youth and beauty, Revan. He shot back. She laughed. Why, Khan? I'm flattered. Should I tell Nar I'm leaving him for a younger man? Laughter was her answer. It's things like that that remind me you both are older than I and you are older than Master Yoda. Revan laughed. And I'm still prettier. Without a doubt, Kian said, and Revan smiled. Ready, you charmer. What is it? Qui-Gon asked. I need a midichlorian count. Yoda told me about them and I want to test something. A pause. All right, got it. What are your readings? Revan asked. Silence for several beats. Something must be wrong with the transmission. Revan tried a signal check. Strange. The transmission is in good order, but the readings you asked for off the chart. Over 20,000. Revan bit her lip, then prepared a new chip. Try this one. Okay, this is weird. Whose is this? Mine, Revan said. It's approaching 40,000 and it looks like it's climbing. Kian sounded amazed. Don't worry about it. But Revan, Master Yoda doesn't have a midichlorian count as high as the first one, and yours is double that. No Jedi has, I bet, Revan muttered. I'll send you Naruto's later as soon as he gets back. He's out again. Qui-Gon's voice sounded concerned. He and HK are out amongst the Dune Sea. She said she knew he was fine as she could feel him. He just wasn't answering her link. I'll contact you later. Go back to sleep, old man. Revan said, teasing. Younger than you. Good night, Revan. The Jedi Master sighed and looked up to see Shmi standing in the doorway watching her. An embarrassed look on her face before she turns and heads back to the kitchen. Revan looks back up at the stars, wondering what the Force had in store for them. Sunrise. Padme leaves the hovel and looks out over the city. It looks so peaceful, she thought as she looked down to see Ardu putting the finishing touches on the paint job to the pod. Nearly finished, she asks the astromech droid. Uru whistles positively. She turns and sees Anakin must have snuck out during the night as he was sleeping against one of the remodeled engines. Obi-Wan came up from behind her. He's been here for 3 hours. He said softly. They turn to see the boy Kitster that Anakin introduced to them yesterday, riding towards them on a strange camel-like creature. He is leading a second one behind him. Padme moves towards Anakin. She notes he looks very vulnerable as he sleeps. She studies him for a moment, then touches him on the cheek. He jerks awake at the contact, then yawns and gives her a puzzled look. You were in my dream, he says. Padme raises an eyebrow at this. You were leading a huge army into battle. I hope not. I hate fighting. Padme says you better go inside. Your mother was looking for you. Best clean up. We have to leave soon. Anakin stands and stretches just as Kitster arrives. Hook him up, Kitster. He then looks at Padme while Obi-Wan goes to help Anakin's friend. I won't be too long. Where's Revan? Padme smiled. She left already. I think she went to meet with Watt at the arena. Race crews mill about the large building with over a dozen pod racers being ready for the race. Alien crews and pilots rush about making last-minute adjustments on their vehicles. Revan strides through the activity with Watt flying near her shoulder. And I want to see your spaceship the moment the race is over. Watt said, patience, Toyodarian. I assure you that you'll have what you deserve before the sun set and well be far away from here. Watt snorted. Not if your ship belongs to me. I think I warn you now. No funny business. You don't think Anakin can win. She paused and looked at the Toydarian. Watt was stopped from answering by a new voice. He's bet on the Dug to win. Revan turned to see a grinning Nar and HK-47 standing there. She took in her husband's appearance. His clothes were covered with sand, some minor tears, and she noticed a pack slung to his back. Don't get me wrong. I have great faith in the boy. He's a credit to your race. But Sabula is going to win, Watt says, pointing to an orange racer off to one side where they see a Dug having his shoulders and neck massaged by twin Yobanas. Why? Revan asked. Because he always wins, Watt said, then laughed. I'm betting heavily on Sabula. I'll take that bet, Nar says. Watt stops laughing and looks at the blonde. What do you mean? Nar steps up. I'll wager this shiny crate dragon pearl against say the boy and his mother. Watt's eyes widened seeing the pearl as did Riven's, which then narrowed as she realized what her husband and droid had been doing in the desert. I don't know. Watt said, a greedy look on his face. Perhaps just one. The mother, maybe the boy isn't for sale. Nar shook his head. The boy is small. He can't be worth much. Watt shakes his head. I had this appraised. It's worth more than a starship. Watt shakes his head again. For both or no bet, Nar said, narrowing his eyes. Watt sighed. One gem that I have not seen appraised is worth 2 slaves. Not by a long shot. 1 slave or nothing. Nar looked at Revan. The boy. Then Watt pulls out a small cube from his pocket. Well, let fate decide. Blue, it's the boy. Red, his mother. How about blue, the boy and his mother, and red, just the mother? The Toyan gets a grin and nods before tossing the cube. Revan lifts her hand slightly and the cube lands on blue. Watt is angry while Namikaze smile at him. You won the small toss, Outlander, but you won't win the race, so it makes little difference. The Toyan flutters away. You cheated, Nar said, looking at his wife. Just hedging your bets, dear. Besides, the cube was loaded. She grabs him by the front of his shirt. And what were you doing hunting crate dragons without me? Nar scratched the back of his neck and then looked to see the others arriving. Oh, look, Ben's here, he said, praying he could get out of it for now. Anakin and Padme enter the hangar on one of the EOPS pulling an engine. Kitster is on the other pulling another engine with 3PO walking alongside. Arto is behind pulling the pod with SHMI sitting on it and Obi-Wan walking next to her. Watt passes Anakin as he leaves. Bonapasaso o whammy chobad. Better stop your friend's betting or I'll end up owning him too. Watt flutters off laughing. Anakin looks at Revan and Nar. What did he mean by that? Nar smirks as he looks at his wife. Well, tell you later, Gaki. HK approaches the droids. Arto beeps and whistles and 3PO steps back as the assassin droid's optics focus on him. Confirmation. Master has shown this unit many things since our last meeting. If the protocol droid would come closer, this unit would be more than happy to demonstrate. Amendment. Of course, it would be more interesting in the vacuum of space. Obi-Wan off to the side shudders at what the droids were talking about. He noticed a gaffi stick strapped to the droid's back and looked to see Naruto looking innocent as his wife glared at him while Padme was looking at Anakin and Kitster in disbelief when they revealed Anakin had never even won a race before and hadn't finished either. You'll do it at this time. Kitster said. Of course he will, Revan said. She looked at Naruto and the blonde grinned. She wondered what her husband had in store for the race. A vast arena located in the Tatooine desert. It is a large semicircular amphitheater that is packed with at least 100,000 beings of various ages and races. Large viewing platforms loom over the racetrack while the voice of the two-headed announcer describes the scene. Below, the contestants are making their way out onto the starting grid. On the left side of the tracks across from the grandstands, a line of pod racers emerge from the large hangar surrounded by several crew members. The pods are pulled by a wide variety of creatures, each led by aliens carrying flags. The pilots stand facing the royal box to which they bow to the figure of Jabba the Hutt. Sabula, who happens to be parked near Anakin, stands and waves to his fans while a small pep band play and the fans cheer. Obi-Wan and Kitster attack the giant engines to Anakin's pod with a long cable. While this is going on, SHMI gives Anakin a big hug and a kiss. Be safe, she says. I will, Mom. I promise. She hurries away before the tears slip from her eyes. Anakin checks the cable hitches. While off to the side, Revan is speaking with her husband. Where did he go? Who dear? Nar asks, entwining his fingers behind his head and gives her his most innocent look. My droid, you know, your new buddy. Where is HK? Revan asked, keeping her temper. Oh, he's around, Nar said. They hear Anakin's name and the Namikaze see him wave and the crowd yells. Their eyes narrow seeing Sebula near the engines of Anakin's pod. Kitster is leading the EOPs away. R2 whistles and follows Obi-Wan. Nar smirks as Padme walks up and gives Anakin a look on the cheek for luck. You think Ben's going to do something about that? He asks and Revan looks to see the Padawan watching. Nope. Her eyes land on the Dug and frowns. She heads towards him and sees him going to taunt Anakin. She examines the engine. Oh, no you don't. She mutters as she pulls out a tool and starts making repairs. What's wrong? Revan looks up to see Padme thrice. Damn, Dug just tried to sabotage Anakin's engines. It would blow later when stressed. They heard a growl and both women turned to see Nar speaking into a comlink. They didn't hear what he said, but he slipped it away after a moment. His blue eyes on the Dug as it moved away from Anakin. The Dug seeing him widened its eyes. Hey, shitstain, Nar said. Remember me. The Dug shuffled back a few feet and as if sensing trouble, guards were on the field. Sebula feeling shoots him a grin, unaware of Revan's repairs. Nar keeps an eye on the Dug till it's back at its pod. Then he walks up, grabs Anakin by the back of his shirt, and lifts him into the racer. The boy's yelps are ignored, and he starts to strap himself into the pod. Revan walks up to the other side. Are you all set? Anakin nods, and through the Force, the Jedi Master can feel the boy's nausea. Remember what I told you. Concentrate on the moment. Feel. Don't think. Trust your instincts. Anakin nods and gives a shaky smile. May the Force be with you, Revan says, is patting the helmet-covered head as the boy slips on his goggles. The Namikaze step back as Anakin flips several switches and powerful energy binders shoot from the engines. Anakin flips a switch and his engine starts. The incredible roar of the high-powered engine igniting echoes throughout the arena. Drivers yelling at droids to get out of the way. The whole arena filled with tension as they await the start of the race. All around engines roar to life. Revan grabbed her husband and stopped him. Where is HK? Nar sighed. There's going to be trouble and I'm stacking the deck. She looked at him. While we were doing some hunting, we ran across a bounty hunter named Our Singh. Who? A bad bounty hunter. From what I've heard, she's good enough to hunt Jedi. Raven's eyes narrow. And she's here. Why? Don't know, but she has been asking around about a certain Gaki. Revan's danger sense kicked in. She's hunting the boy. Why? I mean, sure he's gifted, but apparently not to kill, but to kidnap. It's why I have HK heading out. We think she's going to be in one of the blind stretches. Nar admitted. I'll get you stay here with Ben and the girl. Last thing we need is to put her in danger. Nar said, you're sounding very commanding, dear. Reminds me of when you were Hokog. He smiled, but then she cut it in half with, and you remember how well I took orders then. Nar sighed. Rev, you be here. I'm taking a swoop bike I acquired. That you killed the previous owner. Nar shrugged. He was a bounty. When you get back, you are going to tell me about what you've been doing and why you were hunting a crate dragon without me. Nar gulped and handed her an earlink. It's set to our channel. That way you know what's happening. She sighed and kissed him. Remember, no mass property damage and keep the body count to a minimum. He finished as he kissed her again before rushing off. Reban sighed as slipped on the receiver and went to find Obi-Wan and the others. Master Reban, where is Nar? Obi-Wan asked when she rejoined them. He's gone to retrieve HK, which wasn't a lie, but the last thing she needed was to worry SHMI and Padme, who she could feel in the forces. Both were nervous and they all looked at Revan as she entered the viewing platform that looked like an elevator. Is he nervous? SHMI asked, trying to cover her own fears and nerves by focusing on her son. Revan smiled. He's fine at this. Padme spoke up. You Jedi are far too reckless. The Queen. Revan raised an eyebrow. If you want to play this game in public, then fine. The Queen trusts my judgment. Young handmaiden. You should too, Revan says, stressing the girl's public title with a grin and saw the flash of irritation on Padme's face. You assume too much, the girl mumbled. Obi-Wan put a calming hand on her shoulder. He'd been chastised by masters before, and Revan had that same look. He missed something, and whatever it was had upset the handmaiden. Padme shot him a look, and he gave her a reassuring grin as Revan took her seat, and the platform is raised into the air. SHMI in the center between Padme and Revan holds the handheld monitor, entering the name of the racer she wanted to watch. Overhead, the sound of the announcer calling for the engines to be brought up to full power had the fans around the stadium getting louder. On a bridge over the track, a great green light at the center flashes after a gong sounds. This is the start of the race. The pod racers shoot forward with high-pitched screams. Anakin's engine coughs and floods, then dies. All the other racers except one swerve around him and disappear down the track. Fans watch, some laugh as the slave boy struggles to get his racer started. Padme and Obi-Wan watching are disappointed with Anakin. Revan puts her arm around a very worried SHMI in a show of comfort. Her eyes, however, are focused on the pod. Finally, Anakin's engines ignite and he zooms away after the receding pack of competitors, leaving one quadripod racer still trying to get started, while the two-headed announcer describe the race progress and about Anakin being hard-pressed to catch up to the leaders. The pod racers fly across the desert. Sebulba was running neck and neck with Mahanik. They round the first turn in the track side by side. Sebulba drives his pod into his rival, forcing him into the wall of a large rock formation. Mahanik crashes in a spectacular display of fire and smoke. Anakin is much faster than the backend stragglers and passes them easily. One of the racers, Gazano, won't let Anakin pass him by. Anakin tries to pass him on one side and is cut off. He then tries to pass him on the other side and is cut off. As they come up on a cliff, drop off. Anakin backs off, then guns it as Gazano goes over the cliff. Anakin accelerates so fast that he sails right over the top of Gazano and speeds away. 4 Tusken Raiders perched above the racecourse fire their rifles at the pods racing in the canyon below them. One shot ricochets off the back of Anakin's pod. Back with the crowd, Revan looks at the results and keeps her face blank, but inside she's seething. Blasted. Nar, where are you? Why? What's wrong? The blonde sent back to his wife. Tuskens are camped out on the canyon dune turn. They just took some shots at Anakin and the other racers. Revan sent back. I'll do what I can love, but HK has engaged Singh. She's more dangerous at the moment than some sand people trying to get in some sport. Naruto sent back. Be careful, love. I don't like the fact a bounty hunter like Singh is focusing on Anakin. If it's like you said, Revan sent back. There was no further reply as she knew that he had entered battle. While Anakin was racing, HK-47 was tearing up the Tatooine landscape with excessive amounts of blaster fire with his assault rifle. Statement. Hold still, pale Metag, so that I can teach you the meaning of love. Aura Singh flipped and dodged behind a crop of boulders. The white-kinned woman cursed as the insane droid had somehow sneaked up on her and made the comment, Master would no approve of your attentions towards the rather annoying little meatbag. Therefore, your termination is required. Since then, she'd been unable to do much but avoid the laser fire. From her position, she could see a speeder approaching at a very fast pace. Jedi Aurora thought, feeling the energy around the being. She saw spiky blonde hair blowing as the speeder swooped around and came to a halt. The rider performing a flip and landing next to the droid that still had her pinned down with the excessive amounts of laser fire. This keeps up and I'll miss my target. She thought as the boulder was now chipping away. She could hear the droid. Greetings and salutations, Master. Permission to use grenades. The droid sounded cheerful. Not right his second HK. Go and deal with the Tuskens out near the canyon dune turn. Leave none alive, the blonde ordered. And this surprised Singh as she thought for certain the swoop rider was a Jedi. Affirmative. Careful with this one. Master Aura Singh is reported to have Jedi training. I'll be fine. HK. R. Singh peeked around the boulder and saw a man with tan skin, blonde hair, and whisker marks on his cheeks. He saw her and grinned. Hello there. Come on out. HK is gone and won't hurt you. Aura scoffed but stepped out. Lies. Your droid attacked me under your orders. Nar shrugged. I heard you were after a certain boy and I can't allow you to have him. Aurora drew her blaster. I don't think a young Padawan like yourself is a match for me. Nar smiled. Why are you all so overconfident? Aura looked at him. He had yet to draw a weapon. Die Jedi. She yelled as she opened. So guys, what do you think about this Naruto story? Tell me your opinion in the comments. And if you want more Naruto what if stories, make sure to subscribe to Universe of Naruto. Thanks for watching.